The older I get, the more there are fewer and fewer topics that I don't know at least something about. Not that I know everything, but that I at least have some reference, can have a conversation about. But one of the things that I'm realizing I knew like really absolutely nothing about is childbirth. And it's been fascinating to learn something completely new. And it's just something that I've never really investigated, never really looked into, never looked at the details of the whole process and how everything works. And it's fascinating to learn this completely new topic, but also for a deeper reason. And that is to see how the majority of the world sees this process of giving birth to life. In some ways, we as humans are simply animals. So there's a natural process that the Creator has endowed mammalians with, where the baby sends a signal to the brain of the mother, and the mother sends a signal to the body, and the whole process begins. And animals don't worry about this. They simply find a private place where they can, you know, be safe and quiet and give birth. And if you've ever farmed livestock, you have probably experienced the frustration of having your sheep or your pigs or your horses or your dog not give birth when you want them to, when you're there to help them and you want to observe the process and make sure everything goes okay. And then the second you run back to the house or have to go to the outhouse or the restroom or whatever, you come back and woo, voila, there's 3 babies already done. It's kind of fun how that works. But apparently the human body is sort of similar in that the process and the hormones of this whole thing are shy. But what's more interesting than that kind of connects with the whole reason why I started the Bad at My Religion podcast, and that is that people don't take their religion seriously. This is an even bigger, well, I guess it's sort of the same size issue. It's about life and death. It's about life. But people don't really take it as seriously and as sacred as it truly is. It's been interesting to learn about the process and how some cultures do actually still take it very seriously, and it's a very sacred thing. It's like a ceremony of giving life, bringing life into this world. And yet in our modern, educated, enlightened Western cultures, it's just a process that is full of fear. Fear, it's sterile, bright lights, lots of doctors, everyone's scared. It's like this big, horrible, painful, terrible thing. And yet that's not what it is or what it's supposed to be at all. And that's not what it has to be. And so once again, it's the system that we live within brainwashing us from birth with propaganda that you have to trust the medical system, you have to trust the doctors, etc. And so they all are brainwashed as well because they go through their education and they learn these same things about how scary and dangerous and horrible it is. And of course, like anything in life, there are risks, but it's really something that can be beautiful. I mean, all the way to the point of like when you cut the umbilical cord. I've never in my life had this thought until today, and I was told by someone about the difference and about how cutting the umbilical cord after you let everything flow from the placenta to the baby, that is like the final moment where the baby goes from still being dependent upon the placenta and on the mother to becoming an autonomous human. And so just cutting it with scissors and this, snip, snip, really quick thing is, even though it doesn't feel any pain, there can still be deep trauma that travels through that process and the energy. And yet there's a whole different way that they do it, where they use a candle. And it's like a ceremonial process of like inviting this child into the world through this process. And it takes like 10 minutes to gently burn the umbilical cord when it's ready. And then it sutures it also, like it closes it. It's just fascinating to me that this is not something that is talked about really in mainstream. It's not something I've ever heard of. And yet it's the ultimate respect for life and the process of bringing life into this world. And there's many other things like that. And it's it's been really fun to learn about, but also kind of disheartening in a way for humanity, especially in Western society, and just how disconnected we are from our roots, from our nature, from the divinity and our connection with God. And everything is just fear, 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 fear. Instead of love and excitement and enthusiasm and passion for this beautiful process of life that we have, this gift that we have been given, and how sacred it is, and how serious it is, and how deep and incredible that it can be, and how meaningful every single step can be. It seems like people have lost touch with that in their spirituality, in their religious beliefs, in their faith. It's just kind of people go through the motions and hope they don't go to hell versus being good at their religion. And then something like this, of bringing life into the world. The discussion, like we don't even have these discussions because it's just about, are you pro-life or are you pro-choice? Is it the woman's right to do whatever she wants with her body? Like going through this process and learning all this stuff, I mean, I was already very pro-life just in morality in general, whatever is going to sustain and promote life. But the idea that any sane human with a tiny bit of morality could think that it's okay to abort a baby up to term just boggles my mind now. It's incredible. If that's you, take a deep, deep, long look in the mirror and go pray to whatever God you believe in, because you have some serious issues. It's not your body. It's not your body after like conception, but it's not a clump of cells. Like it's a living child. That's a whole different topic, abortion, but it's like, that's the sad thing about this whole topic for me, is that that's what it boils down to. Is like people fight so passionately about pro-life or pro-choice, which is simply people wanting death. It's child sacrifice. 70 million babies have been killed in the United States in the last 100 years. 70 million babies. It's child sacrifice just by a different name. And yet the conversation we should be having is how beautiful the process is of giving birth. How beautiful the process is of creating life between two people who are committed to each other, who love each other, who are beginning a family, and this natural formation of the child, the natural process of the signals between the baby and the mother and the brain and the uterus and all these things, and then just how it can happen naturally and safely. And yeah, it's an intense process, and I'm a guy, so I'm sure there'll be lots of women who are like, shut up, you don't know what it's like to give birth. That's true. But in some ways, I can really relate to what I have come to understand as part of the process through my understanding of plant medicine and ceremonies like ayahuasca, for example, and the intensity of that. I think on some levels, there may be some things that I can empathize with better now, understanding that it's not just about physical pain, but it's like an intensity of soul and body and mind and spirit and all these things coming together in order to pass this new life, this new being into the world. In some ways, I can relate to that through my experiences with other things. But that makes it even more, for me, something that is so sacred and so beautiful and so amazing, so powerful. And it's sad that we as Westerners just focus on the fear aspect, focus on the pain aspect, focus on the risks and the danger. It's like my thing of pointing positive. Like you look at the rapid, you look at all the dangers, the things that could kill you, and then you focus on the good line, you focus on the right line, you focus on the having fun and getting through the rapid. It's like the same thing with this. Everyone just focuses on, oh my God, there's a log jam there. Oh, there's a hydraulic, there's big rocks, there's whatever. And no one's talking about how beautiful and incredible it is to run the rapid and enjoy that process and the beauty of nature and these pristine river canyons and the sun shining and there's cliffs and there's green trees and you're in this white, fluffy water and it's just so intense. And what is wrong with us as humans that we always seem to focus on the negative? I think that's why pointing positive is my thing. Like why I'm passionate about it. Because you can't be negative and positive at the same time. You can't be pessimistic and optimistic at the same time. You can't focus on the hideousness of whatever and the beauty and the sacredness at the same time. You got to choose one. So choose life and then choose to make it sacred. I think if we did that as humans with everything, the world would be a very different place. But if we just start with the big things, like God and life, bringing life into the world, we just started with those two things, wow, that would probably make some big changes.